This is the Soul Expansion Soundboard, an hour of honest conversations and straightforward advice on spiritual growth, limitless creation, and enlightened evolution, with two certified spiritual coaches and soulpreneurs who understand what it's like to navigate spiritual growth in an ever-changing world. You'll be part of illuminating discussions featuring spirituality, self-development, inner healing, manifesting, and expansive creation of the abundant life you truly deserve. Now, here are your hosts, Roz Kincaid and Julian Hill.
Hello, and welcome to another Soul Expansion Soundboard. Happy Friday. I'm Julian Hill, certified spiritual life coach and human design specialist. And with me is my lovely co-host.
Hey, everybody. It's Roz Kincaid, certified spiritual life coach. And I'm glad, I'm glad it's Friday. There's a lot going on. There's a lot to talk about, and there's a lot in the body. So glad to have you all join us. I'm glad to be with you. And happy Friday.
So today we're going to be talking about body wisdom and somatic healing. So let's start by doing a little bit of getting into our bodies. So take a moment and bring your arms up and kind of bend the elbows, palms out. I call it goalpost arms when I'm teaching yoga. So goalpost arms straight up, and then lift your gaze up and just feel the opening across the chest. Feel the heart center open up, and take a moment and just breathe into that heart center and just feel those sensations in there. We don't take enough time to really connect into the heart center. And so just doing that is a great little somatic practice to kind of get you into the mood for what we're going to be talking about. So, yeah, take a few closing deep breaths, and then you can bring your arms down and let's get into somatic healing and body wisdom. Roz, where do you want to start?
I needed that. I needed that. Except for me, I needed to it's almost like I was in tree pose because something was getting blocked up in the chest area. But I needed that, and here's where I'm being led to start is that your body has a mind of its own. It has, and what I mean by that is that your body has its own intelligence, meaning that your body holds energy and codes and messages and sensations that are messages. And we have there's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot going on in the world. There's a lot going on with us personally. People call it post-COVID. We're trying to get back to some sense of normalcy. And we are being invited, and I'm going to use the word invited, even required for some of us to get back into our bodies. And what I mean by that is starting to listen to what's happening in your body. I'm not just talking about trauma. I'm not talking about just migraine headaches, but I'm talking about when to move, when to rest, when to shift, when to stay still. And I think that a lot of the resistance that we feel in our body when we, come against change or being asked to come out of our comfort zone is actually an ally that works for us and not against us. And when we don't tend to our bodies, it starts to scream at us. It starts to scream at us through PTSD, through depression, through anxiety, through conditions like MS, Bell's palsy, panic attacks. And these are just a few things, few of the many ways that our body is trying to get our attention, not to say, hey, take care of me, but hey, go deal with this, go heal this, pay attention to this reoccurring belief issue, whatever the case may be, because on the grand scheme of things, y'all, we are being called to a higher place. We are being called to a higher quality of life. And I'm not saying that like there's anything wrong with people, but like we ain't just here to just, hang out and chill. Like you came to earth to learn, to grow and evolve. Because if you were to just stay on the other side in the spiritual plane, like it'd be blissful, but it's like living in summer all the time. Like there's no seasons, there's no change, there's no growth, there's no, dead things moving off, there's no newness to experience. And God would want you to experience the fullness of life in the 3D world on earth and life in the spiritual realm. Like the gap between the spiritual realm and earth is starting to close. At least this is what I believe, is starting to close more and more. And you know l- let it be, let earth be, so above, below, or however it goes. Whatever's going on in the ethers, let it be going on in the earth. That's how I'm gonna say it, because I got to make it plain and simple, right? And so we're asking you, we are encouraging you to pay more attention to what's going on in the body. Listen, listen to that headache. Have you eaten? Or are you about to have an episode of some kind of panic attack or something else going on? What is going on? Like you can't just keep going on and ignoring what you're feeling in your body. Julian, what you got?
Yeah, so I think for me, what really comes down to is it's about embodiment. And for a long time, spiritual various spiritual traditions have sort of denied the body and talked about, everything was going to be in the afterlife. The body wasn't important, it was a distraction. But we came here for a reason. Our soul chose to incarnate with an intention for us to learn through embodiment. And so denying the body sort of creates this false dichotomy between spirit and body. And it's really about being embodied. We're in a body right now. And so we need to pay more attention to our body. It's not a useless shell that we're going to throw away. We're not trying to get out of 3D reality into a 5D reality. We're in a body, and we're in a body for a reason and for a purpose. And it's very important. So I think what really brought me to thinking about body wisdom and somatic methods is the idea of embodied leadership. How do we as a leader really feel into our leadership, feel into our intuition, feel into the things that we care about, so that we can lead from that place of being connected to the things we care about. And it's important that we feel into those kinds of things, because a common scenario that happens in coaching is, as life coaches, we work with clients to really connect them to what they care about, to what motivates them, what's the desire behind this change you want to make. And so we do these exercises and we have all these discussions, and we talk about, what do you care about, what motivates you, what's your desire behind this change, and we connect them to that. And then they go out and they go to live that, and they struggle. They still struggle to make the changes in their life that support the thing that they said they desire, that we dug into the motivation and the care behind it. And part of the reason is they're not embodying that care. It's all up here. They're talking about it and they understand it logically. They understand what they care about. They feel connected mentally to what they care about. But they need to get into the body and actually feel the importance of the thing that they want to change. Because when you actually feel it in your body, it kind of creates a deeper reality of it. And they feel more connected to that motivation and to that desire. And so that's what really embodied leadership is all about, is sort of feeling into the care and the values and the things that you're trying to lead from.
Something that you said about embodying leadership and embodying intuition. So this is like really important for me. One, because I it happens to me. The embodiment happens to me even as I'm like I'm trying to like separate me being a psychic medium from like the embodiment that happens to me or I allowed to happen to me. And I have to give an example because the other day, my 5-year-old was extremely frustrated just doing a little art. It wasn't even a project. She likes art and she likes to draw and color and all of that stuff. And she has, in her natural Aquarian way, happened upon technology. She uses YouTube Kids and she has found herself, with a video that shows her how to draw like little simple drawings, and she just couldn't get it the way she wanted to. And I'm on the couch, she's over there drawing and becoming frustrated. And in her frustration, like at the tip of her frustration, something happens to me. Something happens in my body where I start to I feel like this tightening happening in me. I start to get frustrated and I ain't even the one doing the shit. I'm over here watching Sherry and I'm chilling, but she's over there frustrated, but it's jumping on me. And so that what happens is that, see, I know enough. I've been practicing enough to know that, okay, something's wrong here. What is it about this that's making her frustration not okay, that I want to change it and I want to fix it, and I can't teach her, or I'm not in a place where I can teach her that it's okay to be frustrated and here's how you deal with that. No, I get in the mix. And I think that that is intuitively what we have to become aware about in our embodiment. Like, what are you embodying? Are you embodying someone else's emotions and trauma and feelings? Like, it's one thing to be empathic, and it's another thing to unconsciously take on or embody somebody else's stuff that doesn't belong to you, that can, if you don't be careful, can become, you will digest that, and it'll become somebody else's voice, somebody else's being inside of you. So you have to be very careful that you are embodying, I guess, the right intuition or the right feelings. And what is embodiment anyway? like let's look at this a little more closely. And what is embodiment anyway? Is not thinking like somebody else or thinking like some imaginary person that you want to call in or that you want to be, but it's not just thinking like them, but it's behaving like them, is moving in the world the way you want to be. You are going to have to let go of who she or he was yesterday, 5 years ago. The way you moved about in the world cannot exist, and you cannot move about in the world right now if you're trying to be somebody else or be better or be the best version or live your best life or whatever y'all, however y'all want to say it. Like, I can't be out here living like I'm in college at 45 thinking that it's going to get me to the wise one, the abundant one that I'm trying to be. Like, that's probably not going to work out well for me. And it's in your being, it's how you move, it's how you speak, it's what you believe. And all of that takes work. All of that takes putting all that shit up under the microscope and teasing out what doesn't feel right, what doesn't feel like it's a match. You know when something ain't a match. You've been out here dating before. All of these people on this match.com and black people meet and all of this stuff. You know what a match feels like. You know what it feels like. Like, I can't teach you that. You know what that feels like. You just have to be aware of it. And when something is not a match, you need to let it slide. You need to let it go. And then when we don't, When we try to continue to embody a past version of ourselves, then comes that resistance. Because you can't listen. The great Minerva Maharaj, my coach and teacher, taught me that you can't take the old you into the new you. Like, she gonna have to go on somewhere. You gonna thank her or thank him. I appreciate everything you've done for me up to this point, but this is where it stops for you. You can't go where I'm going. Just like everybody can't go where you're going if you're trying to be successful. Even the old version of you has to drop off, and you can't carry that version of you inside of you and think that you're going to get to this version of success, abundance, newness. I'm a bad bitch, whatever you're trying to be.
Yeah, I love that you brought that up, because really that's the essence of human design, right? How do we, in our body, stop embodying other people's reality? How do we stop being inauthentic? How do we stop taking on the identity of whoever we're with? How do we stop feeling the emotions of whoever we're with? How do we stop feeling the pressure of who we're with? That's really the core thing behind human design, is how do we get to our authentic being and then embody that? And one of the disservices that I think the popularity of human design right now has done to people is make them believe that human design is something they need to understand in their head, or that it's a set of rules that they need to follow, and not telling them how to get into their body and feel their design in their being. So I think that's really important. So there's a saying in somatic work that the body has a memory. And I was reading a book the other day on this, and it really just sort of fascinated me. So in our brain, the hippocampus, which is a small gland, really creates chemicals that encode memory. So our brain, that's how our brain remembers, how we develop memories, is that we get those. The hippocampus creates neurotransmitters that encode memory. So what was interesting in this book I read was that our heart muscle has hippocampal cells in it. And so when we say the body has memory, we actually it's sort of literal. We encode certain unconscious feelings and impulses, and it's sort of a survival thing. All of this evolved from survival, because you want your body to sort of react unconsciously. And there's a lot of unconscious movements that we learn, right? Once you learn to drive, you don't really think about the movement that you make to turn the turn signal on and turn the wheel. It just sort of happens automatically. So the problem comes for us when a way that we've been being no longer really serves us, when we're no longer happy with it, and we have all of this encoded memory in our body about how to be. And one of the interesting things that I learned in studying positive psychology is that doing things physically with your embodiment can actually shift the emotion that you're experiencing, and how you think and behave in the moment. So, smiling meditation, if you aren't feeling happy and you actually smile, it can actually, just moving your body in that way can trigger you to start to feel happier. And so in this book that I'm reading, there were a lot of case studies, and they were talking about, like, a person who really was like contracted and hunched over, and he was a big tall guy, and it sort of caused him to have less confidence and to not speak up and not be creative, and just the effect that it was having on him as a leader, that he wasn't an inspiring leader. And when he straightened his posture and opened his chest, and just changing his posture started to change how he felt about himself as a leader and how he showed up. And so really being aware of how our body moves, because our body, we have different levels of sense in our system. We have, all the external senses. We always focus on those, right? Like how we sense sight and taste and all of these different external senses, the ways that we interact with our environment. But then we also have all of the internal senses, like how do we feel? Do we feel too hot? Do we feel too cold? Do we feel contracted? Is there a pain in my neck? Like, we have all of that internal sense, all of the sort of status about our body that gets radioed up to our brain. How fast is the heart beating? How hard are we breathing? Do we have a muscle cramp? All of those kinds of things. And then the third sense we have is about the sense of our body in space. You learn a sense of where your limbs are, where you are in space. And this sense is one that we can use to change the way we think and behave on an unconscious level by simply changing our posture and changing the position of our body in space, which, as a yoga instructor, I worked with this a lot in yoga, of just helping people build that sense when they're in asana of where their limbs are in space. Are they in the position correctly? Are they tilted too far to one side? Are they putting too much pressure on a limb or a certain place in their body? And it's all about building this, strengthening your sense of your body in space, which now we know that the way all these senses sort of create unconscious patterns and feelings in the body, we can actually become more aware of what's going on in our body and in our body, the way that our body moves through space.
Interesting. And for those of you listening, watching the replay, whatever, notice that Julian is talking about movement, moving the body, moving, shifting in some way. And that's what somatics is. It's psychosomatics. The word somatic literally means the body, the physical body. And so when we are able to bring movement to our body, stretch, shift, move, walk, whatever, shake, tap, any of that stuff, any kind of movement. And if you like me and you're Aries, you need to sweat. You need to move so hard that you sweat to get that, get that out. But what happens is that movement shifts energy. That movement transforms energy, right? And it can oftentimes bring healing. It can move energy so much that it will evoke a laugh. It will evoke a cry. It will evoke a release in your body that is needed. That's healing to you. So if you have been, listen, if you've been like me for the last couple of years and been kind of sedentary, it might be time to move some things around. If you're feeling frustrated, move around. Move around. I know that I dabbled in a little bit of breath work, and it was lead breath work. And boy, I tell you, breath work, just moving air through your lungs and moving air through your body and carrying energy through your body, through your breath, can really like shake some shit up. So if you are trying to like really uncover and get to the root of stuff, or even if you just want to breathe better, breath work is really great for like, what am I sifting, that's what I'm saying, sifting, for shaking things up and sifting things out and just moving and clearing. Even as a Reiki practitioner, like I don't practice it as much as I used to because I've kind of like transformed it and using it in a different way. But energy healing, moving energy around, moving something in your body is going to serve you at such a high level, and it's going to clear things for you so that you can be able to understand what's going on in your body, so that you can, do something about it, so that you can get status, get information of what's going on in your body. That's what I had to add.
I'm glad you mentioned breath work, because I think that's important. We always think about somatics as being, Tai Chi or yoga or doing that kind of movement. But breath can be a really powerful way to get in touch with what you're feeling in your body. And, in yoga, we do pranayama, which is changing the way you breathe, changing how you breathe, how deeply, how quickly, all of these things. And most of us, when we're not thinking about it unconsciously, we just breathe very shallowly with our chest. We breathe into our chest, and we're really designed to breathe from our belly, to breathe from our diaphragm. And when you consciously like put your hands on your stomach and like really like extend your stomach out and breathe down into your belly and then fill up the chest and then breathe out and really push the air out of the chest first and then through the belly, your like focus drops down into the gut. And we always talk about gut feeling in the gut, right? Like intuition, it's a gut feeling, everything's in the gut. And so when we're breathing up here, and we're kind of, when we breathe from the chest, we kind of we tend to hunch our shoulders, and it's this very shallow breathing, and we're very contracted, and we don't have a lot of awareness of what's going on in the body. We don't feel a lot of awareness in the heart center, and we're not connected to the gut. And so just that process of bringing the breath down into the gut can really help move our focus down there and help us get more gut feelings, get more in tune with what's going on with the body. And in this book that I've been reading, they were talking about a study that they did with veterans that had PTSD, and it was just a breathing practice that they used to help them. They taught them this breathing practice and taught them to do it daily, and it helped them like get in touch with their emotions again in a healthy way, like because some of them had repressed their feelings so much that they just felt numb. They didn't feel joy, they didn't feel love, but they also weren't like scared or had any of these negative emotions. They were just numb. And this breathing practice helped them get in touch with their feelings again, get in touch with their body again, and also recover from the traumatic experiences that they had. So somatic healing often comes up when we talk about trauma, because the body tends to hold all of our trauma. Because remember that the body has mechanisms at an unconscious level designed to keep us safe, to help us survive. And our body encodes a lot of these negative experiences that we have, and a lot of these traumas, in these unconscious behaviors, in these ways that we hold ourselves in order to protect our vital organs or to protect our feelings or things. So somatics often in trauma work is about sort of replaying some of those, like not replaying the traumatic experiences, but moving the body in a different way, opening up, getting unhunched, getting uncontracted, so that we can be more in touch with what is going on in the body. So breath is an important one, and there's a lot of other things that you can do too. Dance, like, and when I'm talking dance, I'm not saying ballet, I'm not saying modern dance. I'm just talking about moving your body, improvising, just moving, can be a really powerful way to let your body sort of guide what it's feeling and what it wants in the moment, because your body will sort of speak to you and let you know. A good friend of mine, Sarah Monroe, who's one of the founders of the Temple of Rebel Goddess in Dayton, where I do a lot of teaching, teaches this program called The Prayer in Our Bodies, where a group of people sort of come up intuitively with, like, the first person will come up with a motion, and then the whole circle will repeat that motion. And then the next person will add a motion, and they'll do the first motion and the second, and they just build this like really beautiful prayer dance based on just sort of intuitively moving their bodies the way their bodies feel like they want to move. And it's really a wonderful thing. So yeah, so check her out with the Temple of the Rebel Goddess if you're interested in that. And yeah, we just need to move.
Oh my God. Like I have to tell you, like, as you were talking about like doing this movement and kind of handing off the next movement to the next person, this little circle thing, I got extremely uncomfortable. I got extremely uncomfortable. It's like, well, what if I do it wrong? Or what if I, do a movement and I kind of wanted to giggle, a little snicker came. I kind of wanted to come out, because like, what is that? What like see what I'm saying? This is what I'm talking about, y'all. Like, what is that? What is it that is making me feel uncomfortable to move?
Yeah.
Like, and I like to dance. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm here for a good beat and a hi-hat and good rhythm and a hook and all of that stuff. I think it's just music. But like, what's wrong with movement? What is wrong with movement? Like, I recently did a podcast episode with Danielle Waldman, who is a somatic practitioner, and y'all, we got to talking about twerking. Like, listen, I, I don't see nothing wrong with twerking. If I could, I'd be the captain of the twerk team if I had enough back there. But what I'm saying is, like, what is it that has made us feel ashamed to move our body? What is it that what is this shame that right there it is? What is the shame that we have about our bodies? Who told you to be ashamed of your body? Even when you go for you Bible scholars, even when you go and look in the Bible in Genesis, God made man, it's Adam and Eve, they were unclothed. And when God found out that they had broken the rules or whatever you want to call it, and now their eyes are open, now they're covering their bodies, now they're shameful. Like, who told you you were naked? Who told you that being naked, not so much in the body being naked, who told you that being naked was wrong? Who fed you that lie? I try to teach my daughter all the time, like, girl, there's nothing wrong with nudity. There's nothing wrong with you running around your house naked, whether you 5 or 45. There's nothing wrong with you bearing it all. And I'm not just talking about your body, I'm talking about your soul as well. Who injected that shame into you that tells you or makes you believe that there's something wrong with movement, there's something wrong with your body, there's something wrong, I don't know, maybe your titties are hanging down too low, your face is sagging, I don't know. But who told you that that was wrong? Because this is the shit that we eat and that we continue to feed ourselves that sets up these blocks and obstacles, and that holds this trauma in our body that says, I can't do that. That hurts me. Because the thing that you might think that's hurting you or causing you pain might be the thing that frees you up. But you won't let it go. You won't let it be here. Like, it all gets to be here. The nudity, the shame, the all of it. It all gets to be here, because if you can't like get comfortable in whatever is coming up in your body, or you're ignoring what's going on in your knee, or what's going on in your emotions, or you have become numb to things, that right there is the thing that you're going to have to sit down and look in the eye and have a conversation with in order to move, to go and collect $200. You feel me? I don't know what that
Yeah, I
shame is
think
about.
this
Why should I be ashamed about moving my body? It's my body. Like, nothing wrong with it. Like, what the fuck?
I think there's a lot of judgment that comes up, because I see this in, as a yoga teacher, I see this in people who push too hard to do they want to do the pose perfectly, right? They don't want to look weird in the class or look like they're not doing it. And one of the things as a yoga teacher that we always try to stress is, listen to your body. Don't do a pose if it doesn't feel good for your body, because you can injure yourself. And I think that people pushing themselves in this way is the number one cause of those kinds of injuries, because we feel like, we can't admit that something doesn't feel good in our body. And so as a yoga teacher, I'm always sort of stressing, if it doesn't feel good, don't do it. There is nothing wrong with taking a child's pose or sitting in hero's pose and sitting a pose out if it doesn't feel good to you, or modifying it, using your blocks, using your strap, using your bolster, doing something to modify the pose so that it does feel good to you, because it should feel good. But I think, one, we push ourselves to do things that don't feel good, because I'm not sure why exactly. I guess competitiveness, maybe. We don't want to not be able to do something that someone else can do. So we get into that competitive sort of sports mind about things that are a personal practice like yoga. Um, and I also just think we don't always listen to our body. And we've also been grown up with this idea, like, no pain, no gain, right? Like, you gotta hurt if you want to, like, get better at doing it. And nothing could be further from the truth. It should feel good to you. Exercise should be good. It should feel good. You should enjoy it. And if you're feeling a lot of pain in exercise, you're doing it too hard. Sore muscles, yeah, you're going to have some of those when you start a new movement practice. You're going to have a little soreness. If you're like really sore and you can barely move, you've done it too hard. And we need to listen to our bodies about when is enough. And this is something I find in human design. There's a lot of for the non-sacral types, projectors, reflectors, and manifestors, when you go out on the internet and look at human design, there's a lot of talk about rules, about sleep this much and do this and do that. And people are trying to manage their non-sacral being from a very mental perspective by setting up these rules and boundaries and sort of choosing not to do some of the things that they could do because they feel they've been told so much that they can't, instead of just listening to their body and finding enough in their energy in their body. And it's the same thing when we go to exercise or we do a movement practice or we go to a yoga class. We don't listen to our bodies for what is enough.
I think I've heard you mention this talk about things being enough before on like something else you posted. Like your face is coming up from like a post or something talking about like when is enough gonna be enough? Like
I'm obsessed with enough right now. Like just enough, like find enough,
right,
have
like
enough, do enough, know enough, be enough. Like, yeah,
make it enough, okay?
yeah.
Like make it enough. And so like I think that's what our body is trying to get us to understand is that I have a limit. Like your soul is limitless, but your body has limits. And going hard in the paint, pushing too hard, overworking, even what you said about in yoga practices, like pushing past what the body will allow, like that's dishonoring your body. And I can distinctly recall like years ago when I was pursuing yoga and doing yoga, just trying to open up my little hips here. The yoga instructor said, honor your body. Don't push your body past where it wants to go today. And that even calls our attention to, well, what is enough? What is enough for my body? Like, do you like, okay, if you try to stretch right now and do a split and you can't get very far, what do you think is going to happen if you continue to push? You're probably going to pull a groin muscle. Something is going to hurt. Like we have to know when enough is enough in the body. We have to know when, even in our healing, when is enough healing enough? When is too far? Like you don't need all the healing today. Like there has to be a milestone or a stopping post somewhere to say, hey, don't go this far today. Or and you know what else I heard? I'm just kind of skipping around a little bit, but I heard in like Ayurvedic practices, like 10 p.m. is the optimal time to be getting in the bed. Have you heard that?
I don't know about that, but Ayurveda does teach that like your digestive fire, your Agni, is
Mhm.
most active between certain hours. And so like you're supposed to not eat after a certain time. And then when you rest, that fire comes up and like takes out, like if you have a stomach full of food when you go to bed, then when your fire comes up to take out all the impurities, all the toxins and things, if you're full of food, it's spending its time digesting that food and not like cleansing the body.
Prime example. Like, and I'm preaching to the choir here. Get your ass in bed. Go to bed. Like, you listen. Technology has evolved. You can record that TV show and watch it tomorrow. Do you really need to watch it today? Like, get in the bed, especially when your body is saying, I can't. You falling asleep on the couch. Go to bed. Listen to your body. Like, there's so many things that your body is trying to tell you, but we won't listen. And why won't we listen? Is it because we are afraid that we'll drop the ball, will be perceived as unproductive, or perceived in some kind of way from the outside world or the people around us, that we feel like we have to push past the point of you know reason, or what's reasonable to achieve, to overcome, to do this, and if I just do this one thing then I'll be good. Like and I even catch myself doing it too. Like I will set like we will break our own boundaries and push our bodies over the boundary, just to, I don't know if it's we trying to prove something to somebody, or we just want to kind of mitigate what's coming. We're not being in the present moment. you know That's what happens when we don't listen to the body, when we don't take the time to move and shift things around in our body, is like we escape the present moment and we just miss it. And I don't know what more to say, but we got to listen to our bodies because it's trying to like save us. It really is trying to save us from all of this wounding that has been laid on us and wounding that we've created. And I'm not saying that to judge anybody or make anybody feel bad, but we perpetuate our own suffering because we're not here. We're not right now. And I'm kind of skipping ahead till next time, but it's all related though. It really is all related. Um, you know, I watched this television show where this girl has been working on herself, working on healing, on her healing journey. And she recently found out that she has suppressed trauma from her childhood. And somebody else asked in the group, and y'all know, if you know, you know what show I'm talking about. Somebody else asked her, well, how did you even know that you had you had this work to do? How did you know that this was even repressed? And she explained that, you know how you react to certain people and certain things, but you don't know where that behavior comes from? That's your body. That's trauma in the body speaking. Like, hey, something's wrong in here. Something is off kilter and it needs your attention, your attention. And so a lot of times, scientifically, that energy gets trapped into our cells. And it's not until something familiar happens that it starts to come up and get our attention and say, hey, we need help. And so, I say all that to say, to pay attention to how you're behaving, how you're reacting, how you're responding to people, to things on the TV, to other people's behavior, because that could be a telltale sign that there's something under the skin, something deeper that's going on with you that may have been suppressed or repressed, that needs to come up, that's ready to come up and doesn't want to be repressed anymore, so that you can, remember your wholeness. Like, you don't have to work to be whole. You're already whole, but you need to remember to live in it though.
Yeah, that's interesting because the other day I was reading. So, consciousness is kind of something science doesn't really understand. Where does consciousness come from in the brain? And there was a theory that was put out that consciousness is actually remembering unconscious action, which is kind of interesting when you start talking about the way that the body unconsciously does these things triggered by traumas in the past. And you mentioned people and different things, and places can also be very triggering if you have past trauma. So I read a case study about someone who had been abused, and his mom would lock him in a closet in the basement. And so whenever he would go down in a basement, he would have like this fear and this like really strong unconscious reaction to it. And, through doing work, with somatic leadership and embodied leadership, he sort of was able to unravel this past trauma and get beyond that. It's also why people who have had trauma have a hard time with meditation. When they're actually sitting in quiet meditation and they're observing their thoughts, and the mind is no longer sort of holding such tight control, they start to feel into their body for the first time. And a lot of that past trauma can come up. So people who have had extreme trauma often struggle with meditation because it becomes very uncomfortable for them. And so working with a somatic coach or somatic therapist to overcome that trauma can really be helpful for people who struggle when they sit down to meditate with that, having just extreme discomfort in the body from that practice.
Interesting. I'm not sure where to go with that.
Yeah. I'm glad you mentioned sleep, because I think that's such a big one where we don't listen to our body. And it comes back to enough. Have you done enough today? Do you really need to stay up till midnight doing something else, working harder, doing more. And there's been a lot of talk on social media lately about quiet quitting, because people are finally saying enough to work, right? They're saying, I worked my 8 hours. Now I'm gonna like spend some time with my family and get a good night's sleep. And it's sort of being portrayed like a negative thing, like they're quiet quitting. And it's like, are they really quiet quitting, or are they just drawing some boundaries around work and listening to their bodies about what they need?
Yeah.
Because sleep is such a huge one that we don't listen to our bodies around. And if any of you follow Ariana Huffington or have read her book on rest, she had that where, as an entrepreneur, she was pushing herself and working late and not sleeping. And she actually collapsed. She like just physically collapsed one day and broke her cheek on the edge of her desk. She just was so exhausted that she basically blacked out and collapsed. And so that led her to really researching sleep and doing a lot of work around sleep. And she has a whole book she's written about sleep. So, definitely, I think for me, sleep is a big one, because I used to be one of those people. I worked in technology, and technology sometimes I think is one of the worst about pushing people hard to work more and more and late at night. And sometimes you're on call and that pager is going off at 2 a.m. And I used to, I was in a leadership role in a company that was a small startup, and it was expected that I was going to work extra hours and I was going to do things outside of the office. And I slept so little that after my year at the helm of the technology org, I quit that role because I just couldn't do it anymore. I was so physically drained that my body was like, this is enough. We can't do this anymore. And so I had to rethink what I was doing.
Yeah. Reevaluate your priorities. Is it more of a priority for you to evolve technology? Or is it more important for you to go and take a vacation or, retreat just to restore your body? I have heard many stories like, what you shared about people having heart attacks and strokes from overworking. Oh, we have a comment here. Lynn says, we are more reactive than proactive. It can be really difficult to manage our bodies and listen when life throws us fireballs. True. Fireballs we often create ourselves. I do not believe our lives were meant to be lived as we are living in current times. We have progressed too fast for our own good. We take on too much because of wanting to have it all or keep up, or we are simply filling the spaces to avoid the traumas. Oh, yes. Yes. That's pretty much it. Like, we're trying to, like, the progression of man has been quick. And yes, we've taken on too much because some people are trying to bypass that trauma. I've heard it said from a few people, even just this year, saying that if I allow myself to go there emotionally, that I might not come back. And I just want to say that that's not true. That's not true. You will come back. If you allow yourself that break, and I'm not talking about a psychotic break, but if you allow yourself to let all of your feelings be here, be present, make room for them and let them be with you, and you sit with them, you will come back. You will definitely come back. You will come back new and stronger and more aware and more open. And so that whole filling the spaces to avoid the traumas that Lynn talks about, that's exactly why enough is not enough. We're trying to avoid something that is screaming for our attention because it wants to pass. It wants to move. It doesn't want to stay still. Yes, your ego wants to keep you safe. Yes, the resistant loves you enough to want to keep you in your comfort zone. But that trauma, that pain and discomfort and disease that's being held in your body, it really wants to pass. It really wants to be here. It really, like, it's almost like gas in your body. Like, that doesn't want to stay. It wants to move. It really wants to move. And we have to take the time to stop bypassing and allow ourselves to have that break and safely. You know, maybe you don't want to be on your own or by yourself trying to do this work. Maybe you do need to call in a therapist or a coach or some type of holistic practitioner to be with you, to hold space for you, to watch you carefully move through whatever pain or trauma or whatever wounding that you're trying to heal and move through. Like, you don't have to be doing this by yourself, and you will come back from it. The fact that you are trying to convince yourself and keep that lie alive that you won't come back from it is what's keeping you in disease and discomfort and unhealthy. And it's going to break your body. And Beyonce says you can't break my soul, but damn it, you can break your body by not tending to it. Lynn says if we don't take the time to do it, our body will do it for us in other ways. So y'all better know it.
Yeah, I just want to build on what Roz said, that if you have experienced past trauma and maybe you're doing therapy and talk therapy isn't getting where you want to go, you might want to look for a therapist who uses somatics, because they might help you more than talk therapy would. And likewise, if you've worked with a coach and you're just finding, even though you understand your values, you feel connected to your care, what you care about and what motivates you, but you're just struggling to make it more physically real for yourself, a coach that uses somatics and movement in their practice may be able to connect you more to how you feel it in your body and how you embody it. And then, sort of final plug, something that is something that I've looked at for a while, and I don't live close enough to it to really go do their experience it in person, but sort of the leader in embodied leadership and somatic training is the Strozzi Institute. So, you can look them up on the web and find information on their practices. And they do have some very robust online group, programs for just using somatics to sort of enhance more fulfillment in your life.
Good to know. Yes, like, look into it, y'all. So, where are we at right now? Oh, so listen to your body. If you don't listen to it, like, it's gonna do it for you. I mean, so although I do not specifically practice Reiki as its own service, I do still offer Reiki through my empowerment private coaching program. It's a one-on-one program. We use things like tapping and Reiki energy healing and all kinds of things, all the energetics to really get underneath what is recurring for you and what is in your way to move through that emotionally in your thought forms and your beliefs. It all starts with the energetics, because honestly, you can take great conscious aligned actions, but if the energetics underneath it are shitty, it's not going to work. So if you're interested in working with me, to take back your power, to gain some more confidence, to draw boundaries and to hold those boundaries, I encourage you to check out my offerings at www.rozkincaid.com. Or if you have questions, you can hit me up on Instagram or Facebook at Soul Healing with Roz. I do have some spaces available for private coaching right now. That includes Reiki energy healing. So if you want to get to the Reiki, you got to come through the coaching.
Awesome. Yeah, like Roz, I also do private coaching. I work with spiritual businesses, spiritual entrepreneurs who are struggling with burnout and trying to do too much in their businesses. And I also work with individuals who are looking to connect with more purpose or find their way to have the most impact in the world. I do incorporate movement into my coaching. I do a lot of different things, pranayama, some light yoga and asana, simple things like adjusting your posture, like we did in the beginning of this show, where I sort of had you open your heart and feel into that area. So I do a lot of sort of light somatics in my coaching. I'm always looking to incorporate more, and you can learn about all of my coaching offerings at www.priestofenana.com. I'm also on most social medias as Priest of Inanna, so you can find me there as well. My coaching is all done on a monthly program basis, so it's paid per like month. I don't sort of lock you into a big program or add a lot of extra fluff. It's just really about getting into that coaching relationship and working together in that partnership to move you forward.
All right, y'all. Thanks, Julian. Y'all check out our offerings. We're here to help you. We're a resource for you. If you need it, or if you feel aligned to working with either one of us, we're available. So next time, November 18th, we are going to continue this similar conversation around being present and being in the moment, because being present is where the power is. It ain't in the past. It ain't up the road in the future. Right now is what you got right now. So we need to learn how to be present right now and mindful. And so that is what we're going to be talking about November 18th, 12 p.m. sharp. So join us. We'd love to have you. Drop your comments, questions. If you have questions for us that you want us to respond to and answer during the show about mindfulness and being present, let us know. Hit us up. You know how to find us. All right. So that's all we have for you guys today. Julian, any final thoughts? We got a couple minutes left.
No, I think we covered it pretty well, Roz.
Cool. Awesome. Well, thank you all for joining us. We will see you next time, and be present with your body. Listen to your body. Try it and see how it goes. Just try it. Just do one thing, one little movement. Go for a walk. Do something. Commit to yourself to moving your body, to really listening to your body and caring for your body, because you don't get another one of these in this lifetime. So make it count.
Yeah.
All right, y'all.
Find your enough.
Yeah.
Find your enough.
Find your enough.
All right, everyone. Have a great rest of your Friday. Bye.
This has been the Soul Expansion Soundboard. Join us live every other Friday.